culminating assignment to his career was as battalion commander of the 2nd Battalion 20th Artillery, 4th Infantry Division.
Blah, blah, blah. You're good. You're good. This is all boring.
It's not boring.
Y'all don't want to hear any more of this, do you? Because you know what? You can get this on eBay. All right? Whatever you want to be, you can buy it on eBay and you can say, hey, it's me. All right, Nagar, you can go now. How's everybody doing? Hey, anybody, University of Tennessee here? Hey, Rocky Top. I graduated in 1983, University of Tennessee. Okay, anybody here from Kansas State University? Okay, well, that's where I got my master's from. But look, welcome to the great state of Texas. Welcome to the Lone Star State of Texas. So pleased that y'all are here. Can y'all see through these things? Can y'all take these things out of the way? I mean, it's kind of in the way. I mean, people can't see me. They got to look around and what have you. But anyhow, welcome to the Lone Star State. Welcome to the city of Houston. You know what's so interesting about the city of Houston? It was here on Independence Day of 1867 that the Republican Party of Texas was founded by 150 black men. Now, I want you to think about that. 150 black men founded the Republican Party of Texas right here in Houston, Texas. And of course, most of the white progressive liberal socialists won't tell you that. But just 2 years prior to that happening, those exact same people found out that they had become free because of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who worked with a gentleman who was a former slave by the name of Frederick Douglass to create a thing called the Emancipation Proclamation. And then, of course, on Juneteenth of 1865, they found out that they were free. See, the thing about those 150 black men who founded the Republican Party of Texas here in Houston, Texas, on Independence Day of 1867, they did not see themselves as being defined by what they had been. They did not see themselves as being defined by the color of their skin. They saw themselves as being defined by what they could be. They saw themselves as being defined because they believed in the fundamental principles and values of these great United States of America that is based upon individual rights, individual liberties, individual freedoms, and that's why you all are here today, because you are the frontline warriors to carry that message. Now, one of the things that I was kind of upset about with COVID happening, I couldn't go on to these college campuses and beat down those stupid little chucklehead lefty students when you guys had me out for those cops. I mean, I don't know how many of you all saw the video of the young lady at Northwestern University. And see, I got invited by the YAF chapter to go to Northwestern University to talk about the Iranian nuclear agreement. And I was like, okay, man, I got to really be fired up. I got to really study hard. I got to really get this foreign policy issue right. And I thought I gave a pretty good presentation. And then we get to the question and answer session, and maybe some of y'all saw, but this young female, African-American, steps up to the microphone. And what's the first question that gets proposed to me from her? Do you identify as black? And I was like, well, last time I checked, I did. But what I want you to understand is here we are in the city that founded the Republican Party of Texas, 150 black men. And here we are today, all of those years later. Here we are today. I grew up in that neighborhood, as Nagar talked about, that gave us Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And what did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talk about? He said he wanted his children to grow up in a country, in a nation where they were judged by what? Content of their character and not by the color of their skin. And what is happening on our college and university campuses? What is happening all across the United States of America? What is happening with this critical race theory, cultural competency action plan, this cultural Marxism? We are all of a sudden separating and dividing ourselves based upon the color of our skin. And when I look out at this audience, There are a whole lot of little white kids out there. But you know something? Not a single doggone one of y'all oppresses me. I'm not a victim. I'm not oppressed in the United States of America. And why is that the case? Because conservatism does not look at me based upon my skin color. Conservatism does not lump me into a group of individuals that says, I cannot think for myself. Conservatism sees me as an individual, a person that can critically think for myself, not like that young lady at Northwestern University. One of this quote-unquote most intellectual universities, most expensive universities in the United States of America. And here's this dumbass asking me about the color of my skin. I mean, someone needs to go back and get a refund on that tuition. See, what you're fighting for, and why I love coming out and speaking to you all, because, like I said, you're on the front lines. We have lost our academia. And if we don't have young people who have courage, who have character, that are willing to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not going down this path. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. What defines you in the United States of America is your content of character. What defines you here in the United States of America is whether or not you believe that you are a victor and not a victim. Think about this. I was born in 1961. Yeah, I'm 60 years of age. Some of y'all saw me coming in from a run this morning. I heard you guys only did 1 mile. Come on now, you can't have a 60-year-old guy, outdoing you and putting in 4 miles. But the bottom line is this. Being born in a blacks-only hospital in 1961, growing up in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia. Now, how is it that if America is such a racist nation, then I'm standing on this stage before you all? A young man born in a blacks-only hospital that grows up to command a battalion of 600 soldiers in the United States Army in a combat zone and reach the rank of lieutenant colonel, when my dad was only a corporal in the United States Army during World War II. A young man born in a blacks-only hospital that grows up to become a member of Congress, United States House of Representatives, to represent in the United States House of Representatives a congressional district that was 92% white, that included the highest per capita income zip code at that time, which was Palm Beach Island. And oh, by the way, that kid that was born in a blacks-only hospital, there was a little place called Mar-a-Lago that was in that congressional district that I was honored to represent. There was a guy, maybe you know him, big guy, huge guy. He's a former president now, who invited me to Mar-a-Lago, who invited me to Trump Tower to sit down and have events with him. A man that we all know is a conservative icon that I had the opportunity to have dinner with 3 times. His name was Rush Limbaugh. So if America is such an incredible racist country, and I'm born in a blacks-only hospital in 1961, how do I get to grow up and sit down and have dinner with Rush Limbaugh? Because conservatism does not see us based upon race. Conservatism sees us based upon what's in our heart, our drive, and our determination. And that's what you all have to continue to fight for on these college and university campuses. How many folks know who Andrew Wilkow is? Andrew Wilkow has this saying. He says, we're right, they're wrong, and that's the end of it. And that's what I want you to understand and believe. That's why I want you to be emboldened to realize that everything about constitutional conservatism is right. Our founding fathers created an incredible nation that's based upon the sovereignty of the individual and not the institution of government. But yet here we are flipping that relationship and putting the institution of government over the sovereignty of the individual. And let me tell you something, young people. It ain't cool to hang out with people that are a bunch of control freaks. I got two daughters, 28 and 24. They used to always say, hey, Dad, let me do my own thing. Dad, you crowded me. Dad, I think I got this. Dad, da. So why would you all want to hang out with people? And this is what you challenge the other side. Why do you want to hang out with people to tell you what you can eat? Tell you where you can go? Tell you what you have to wear? Tell you what kind of job you have to have? Who would have ever thought we live in America where a government is telling people to stay at home and we pay you to stay at home instead of going out and being part of the American dream to work and own your own way? That's not cool. Let me tell you something, young people. Free does not equal freedom. When people are giving you something for free, they own you. And that's why the difference between constitutional conservatism and progressive socialism is that progressive socialists, they need economic enslavement. They need to have people that are wedded to the government. But what do we believe in as conservatives? We believe in economic empowerment. That's what I want you to continue to hone about. We believe in the strength of the individual. We believe in making people victors. We believe in economic empowerment. And oh, by the way, the next time you have somebody that comes up to you and gets in your face and starts yelling and screaming, Black Lives Matter. This is what I want you to say. And don't say all lives matter, because you're playing into their argument. But the next time someone comes up and says Black Lives Matter, just ask them a simple question. Which black lives? Because we're not too far away from you right here. Not too far away from you right here is the second largest facility for murdering unborn children in the world. Right down I-45, south side of Houston, located in the black community. See, Planned Parenthood, that organization that was founded by a woman that was a white supremacist, a woman that was a racist, a woman that spoke at Ku Klux Klan rallies, a woman that talked to blacks and defined them as undesirables and human weeds. But yet I've never seen Black Lives Matter show up over there. The same people that are talking about how America is such a racist country, the same people that are talking about America was not founded on July the 4th of 1776. It was founded in 1619 when the first slave ship arrived. That's the most insidious, disrespectful, and dismissive thing that anyone could come up with. But yet we have a presidential administration that agrees with that. That's why we need you all out there on the front lines to combat people. Because if we raise a new generation of Americans that don't believe in the greatness of America, then the days of this constitutional republic, the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known, is at risk. But the reason why I love being here with you all each summer, when the people at YAF lower their standards and they allow me to come here and be with y'all, is because when I look at each and every one of you, I see the hope. I see America. I see our future. I see the reason why my dad, even though he was born in 1920 and this country did not see him as equal as it did to some others, he still answered the call of service. And he fought for this nation in World War II. When I look at you all, I look out and see. When I look at you all, I look out and see why my older brother took that oath to the Constitution as a Marine Lance Corporal and went and fought in Vietnam. When I look at you all, I see why I answered my father's challenge at the age of 15 when he challenged me to be the first officer in our family. And I know I was talking to a young lady here from Kennesaw, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia area. I went to Henry Grady High School. That's where it started for me in 1976 in high school junior ROTC. When I see you all, I see why my nephew, who was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, honors his oath to the Constitution. Because what we're doing, what we have done, what we will continue to do, is fight to preserve this incredible last best hope for mankind to pass on to you all. And I will not be part of a generation that passes on less to my children and my grandchildren and to each and every one of you than what was passed on to me. What I'm challenging you all to do, how many folks here remember the movie Saving Private Ryan? Remember that final scene in Saving Private Ryan when Tom Hanks' character, Captain Miller, has been shot. He's bleeding out. He calls over Matt Damon's character, Private Ryan, and he whispers 2 words to Private Ryan. Those 2 words are "earn this." As you're sitting here right now, there's an 18, a 19, a 20-year-old somewhere far away, wearing the uniform as a soldier, sailor, airman, Marines, and Coast Guardsman. They're standing on freedom's ramparts for you right now so that you have the ability to live in the greatest nation that the world has ever known. They're standing on freedom's ramparts to protect your rights, your freedoms, and liberties because they took an oath to the Constitution. And all they're asking you is to earn this, to go back on these college and university campuses and fight this ideological battle in which we find ourselves right now. They're asking you to earn this so that, as Abraham Lincoln once said, that when they are ready to give the last full measure of devotion, that you're supposed to give to them a greater measure of devotion. I want you all, before school starts back up, do the old colonel this favor, and I'll close on this. Go to a national cemetery. Go and walk amongst the gardens of stone. Go and look at the names of those men and women who have gone before you, who have laid down their lives so that you can be here right now. And if that cannot inspire you, if that cannot encourage you, if that cannot embolden you to go back and stand up and fight for the greatness of these United States of America, then I don't know what will. What I want you to do is understand that you don't live in a racist nation. Did America overcome a very dark past? Absolutely. But here's a kid that was born in a hospital that was based upon the color of skin. But I stand before you today because I live in a nation that regards the content of character. God bless you all. What are your questions? All right. I'll start on this side and then I'll bounce back and forth. All right, right here. Where are you from? What's your first name?
Hello, sir. My name is Jimmy Kulas. I'm from Michigan State University.
Hey, go Spartans.
Yeah, thank you. Go Green. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming and giving this speech here and taking time out of your day.
My pleasure.
I'm currently enrolled as an ROTC member in the Army at MSU, and I was just wondering, what is your biggest piece of advice for anyone pursuing a military career or an ROTC like yourself?
The biggest piece of advice I can give you pursuing a military career is always remember you take the oath to the Constitution. That's what you're going to do. I did that on 31 July 1982. You don't take an oath to a political party. You don't take an oath to a person. You don't take an oath to an ideology. You take an oath to the rule of law that binds us together. And you must always honor that oath. And there are a lot of challenges going on in our military right now. I would have never thought that I'd see a military that has become politicized, that is going after and trying to purge conservatives or people that are honoring their oath, or the fact that we relieved of command a member of our military who spoke out against Marxism when Marxism is the antithesis of our Constitution. So I would tell you to always honor your oath, and the next important thing, pay attention to your non-commissioned officers because they will keep you squared away.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. All right. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Cameron Spivey. I'm a history major at Washington and Lee University.
Yes, sir.
And given your military background, I was wondering if you support the decision to rename the 10 Confederate military bases. And
Absolutely not.
And if you view Confederate veterans as American veterans.
Absolutely so. Look, did they fight for something that was a little bit, different as far as what we believe in our Constitution? But most of them believed that they were fighting just for their liberty and freedom and for their states. Look, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Outside Atlanta, Georgia is a really big rock. Maybe some of y'all have heard of that rock. It's called Stone Mountain. On the face of Stone Mountain, you got Robert E. Lee, you got Jefferson Davis, you got Stonewall Jackson. Not a single one of them ever offended me. Not a single one of them ever did anything to hurt me. History is there for you to learn from. Good, bad, indifferent, ugly, what have you. If you go down the path of someone subjectively deciding this is the history that they want to preserve, this is the history they're going to get rid of, then you're going to end up not knowing where you got to. And that's the problem with that. And so I served at 2 military installations that were named after Confederate generals. One was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the home of the 82nd Airborne Division, United States Special Forces. We didn't care who Braxton Bragg was. We just knew that we were Army paratroopers. And we had a mission to serve and protect this great nation. My last duty assignment was Fort Hood, Texas. Fort Hood was named after the Confederate General John Bell Hood, who was defeated by Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain there at Little Round Top on the second day of Gettysburg. John Bell Hood never dropped me for push-ups. He never made me run an extra mile. But history is there for us to learn from. So I disagree with changing and renaming and doing all of these things to history. Because as George Santayana once said in 1928, and Winston Churchill also said, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Good morning, Colonel. Thanks for being with us today. My name is Mike Wolf. I'm from University of Michigan. Go Blue.
We already got a rivalry.
It's all right. I was going to ask you the military question. As a former senior officer, I wanted to know your views on the critical race theory and gender ideology infused in our military, and people like General Mark Miley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, saying he's open to the infusion
I
of
am
that.
totally appalled with the senior leadership of our military. The chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chief of Naval Operations. How can you have an effective and cohesive fighting force if you're saying that one group of people are evil and they're oppressors, and the other group are oppressed and they're victims? Because when you come together on a combat battlefield, you need people to fight for one single thing, the oath that they took and the country that they love. And so this whole thing about this cultural Marxism, and why do I call it cultural Marxism? Because Marxism is based upon socio-economic division. But now we see this new Marxism that's based upon racial division. And it's not a good and healthy thing to be infiltrating into our United States military or any aspects of our society or our culture. So absolutely appalled. But understand this, after your promotion to like Brigadier General or Rear Admiral, that's the 1-star level in the military, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, they're all political appointments. And that's the big concern. Senior military leaders that are leaning toward a political ideology instead of leaning toward their oath of service.
That's eye-opening. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you.
Howdy, thanks for being here today. My name's Caleb, and I go to Texas A&M University.
Hey, you know the commandant of the Corps of Cadets, he and I served together on active duty, Brigadier General Joe Ramirez.
So my question for you today is, looking at the 2020 election, we saw that Donald Trump made great strides in the Hispanic community, if you look at the counties along the border, the southern border of Texas. And so my question is, how do you think conservatives can take advantage of those kind of demographic changes? Or should we even be looking at it in that kind of lens?
No, absolutely right. You know, I was the former chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, and one of the great stories that came out in November 2020 was how we flipped the Rio Grande Valley. Zapata County had not been Republican for 100 years and became Republican. Why? Because we went down and talked to people about their principles and values, not political party. And what are the principles and values of conservatism? Conservatism believes in our Judeo-Christian faith heritage. We believe in our families and the strength of families. We believe in good quality education. We believe in individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. We believe in our small business entrepreneurship, and we believe in service to the nation. And when you go down and you talk to any community, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. People connect with you on principles and values. So we have to show that to them, and we have to talk to them about that. And that's why you see that change. And that's why you saw Donald Trump, first Republican president in some 60 years. Look at the amount of black and Hispanic electoral support that he had. He had the most of any Republican president in 60 years. Why? Because he opened up the line of communication. This is what I tell you. I hate the word outreach. Outreach means that you show up in Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month or Asian Pacific Heritage Month, and you go blah, 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 and then people never see you again until 2 months before an election. What I want you to do is have consistent and constant engagement. Break down the barriers that they're trying to set up to separate us, and talk about principles and values. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. My name's Troy. I'm from Normandale College, and I got this 22 kill ring because of you, and I got my first concealed carry because of you. You're a hero to me. So thank you for standing up for the veterans. My question is, Charles Krauthammer laid out what he would do with the border. He said, you seal it off, you kick out the bad guys, you give them permanent residency, not citizenship, and then their kids can be citizens, and then you install E-Verify. I wanted to know what you thought of how he would deal with that.
Well, I will tell you that what we're facing here in the state of Texas, in the United States of America, is a constitutional crisis. Who would have ever thought that we would have a federal government, a president of the United States of America, that would abdicate their constitutional responsibility to protect the sovereignty of the United States of America and the state of Texas that shares a 1,254-mile border with a foreign country that is really a failed state. Number one, you got to put your entire National Guard of the state of Texas down there on that border to make sure you have a deterrent force. Number two, you got to designate the cartels as a narco-criminal terrorist organization, because right now the cartels are making $25 to $30 million a week just on human trafficking. A week just on human trafficking. Hey, you're sitting in the #1 state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. You're sitting in the #1 city in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. And that's what has happened. We're aiding and abetting trafficking, to include the drug trafficking. Young people, you know what's happening with fentanyl. So many young people are losing their lives because of fentanyl. We're getting close to 100,000 deaths. We need to also make sure that we are doing what is necessary to say that we're a very compassionate country. But knock on the front door. Don't try to come into our back door. Over 100, I think it's up to 160 different nations, we've detained people from coming across the border into Texas. This is a national security issue. It's a local crime issue. Houston is one of the most dangerous cities in the United States of America as a crime. Be careful going out late at night around here in the city of Houston. So those are the type of things we need to fix foremost. We should not have people here in the state of Texas being terrorized, being afraid to go out at night because of people that are just flowing across our border. Now, if we want to talk about some type of path later on, that's fine. But even Ronald Reagan, I think if he were still alive, he would go back and reverse what happened, because he granted the amnesty and the federal government never did what they were supposed to do, which was to get this whole situation under control. So first and foremost, let's do what is right by the Constitution and our rule of law, and then we can talk about whatever paths that come along the line. All the way.
Colonel, thank you so much for speaking to us. My name is Jacqueline. I'm from the University of Washington.
Okay.
What do you think we can do to steer the military back to constitutional principles and away from wokeism and CRT? And what do you think of Admiral Richards in Strategic Command?
Admiral Richards, the Chief of Naval Operations?
Yes.
Yeah, and the testimony again. Well, going off dovetailing what I just said with the young man as far as General Milley and what he said. But elections have consequences. And so therefore, when you get a far left progressive socialist administration, they're the ones that are putting people in charge of our respective branches of service, being the civilian leadership. And then they're also the ones, because everything, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star general, all political appointments. And if you go back and you remember, Barack Obama did a really good job of getting rid of a lot of conservative military leaders. And now we see what has happened. So again, I think it's so important. The commander-in-chief of our military forces is the President of the United States of America. And you have to have someone that understands what constitutional conservatism is about, so we don't have this new cultural Marxism that is creeping into our military. This whole countering extremism working group, this is very damaging. And the things this Ibrahim Kendi, I believe is his, they're reading his writings. We don't need to have that in our military. But again, we've got to make sure that we have the right person as Commander-in-Chief for our military.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel. I actually It's an honor to meet you. I mean, I've actually listened to some of your lectures. I'm Coriel from the College of Lake County, just north of Chicago. I do want to mention that I don't know if I agree with your views on the Confederacy, but I don't want that to be my question. Maybe we can talk about that later. However, though, what do you think is the best issue or the best thing that us Black conservatives should concentrate on that could bring more Black people to the Republican Party? Like, what issues or what topics do you think would be more intriguing for them to come to our side?
history. I started out by telling you that the Republican Party of Texas was founded by 150 Black men. Our history, when you think about the first members of the Congressional Black Caucus, were 7 Black men that were Republicans. We need to tell that history. We need to go back and say, who are the ones that were responsible for the decimation of the traditional nuclear Black family? It was Lyndon Johnson, Great Society Programs. There's a great documentary that was out there called Uncle Tom. I don't know if you've seen that documentary.
Yes, I have. It's great.
And Uncle Tom #2 is coming out this fall. So I think that there's an awakening in the Black community. There's an awakening in the Black community toward conservatism. When you think about our Judeo-Christian faith heritage, Blacks are the most conservative people in the United States of America on Sunday. Then something happens Monday through Saturday. And we got to make sure we keep that connection going through the entire week. But let me again come back to this issue. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Afghanistan. I have seen what happens when people go out and selectively decide which part of history should be around. No one wins when you go down that path. I saw what happened through the history books with National Socialism. That's what the Nazis were when they destroyed history. And so you're on a slippery slope. Because remember the same people that are saying that these statues of certain Confederate generals need to be torn down? They tore down the statue of Frederick Douglass in Rochester, New York. They tore down the monument and defaced the monument of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. You know who the 54th Massachusetts Regiment was?
Yes, I love the movie Glory. It was
Absolutely. The first
Robert
Black
Shaw.
men to wear a uniform in the United States of America. But the same cancel culture destroyed their monument. So the thing is this, history is there for you to protect. History is there for you to talk about because it's a slippery slope. If you start granting people the ability to pick and choose what they want to have up and what they want to take down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel.
Good morning.
My name is Natalia, and I'm a student at San Diego State University.
Hey, go Aztecs.
Yeah. My question is for you. So I was a student enrolled in Air Force ROTC, and we received extremism training, and it surprised me that most of what was talked about was white supremacy, but not BLM or the riots taking place in our inner cities. So I was just curious what your advice would be to those who want to serve or who are currently serving, how to stay true and strong to the oath that we take while we see a Space Force officer get relieved of duty for speaking out against Marxism.
Well, no, I think that you have to stand up and speak out. I think you have to stand up and say, oh, time out on the court. Why don't we talk about these other subversive groups that are out there? I mean, Antifa and Black Lives Matter and what they're doing. I mean, you cannot just pick and choose which groups that you think and try to inculcate this wokeism in here. Because as a commissioned officer, which you will soon be in the United States Air Force because you were smarter than I am, I could only jump out of airplanes, I couldn't fly them. You've got to understand that your oath to the Constitution is more important than anyone trying to indoctrinate you into a certain type of ideology. And if we don't have the young men and women that are seeking to serve our nation to understand that the Uniform Code of Military Justice protects you against anything or any order that is unethical, that is immoral and unlawful, you can challenge those things. You can stand up and say, I don't believe that this is a proper training doctrine that you're giving to us, because you're picking and choosing what you believe based upon what. So please stand up and understand the oath that you will be taking as an Air Force officer and not allow people to indoctrinate you whatsoever.
Thank you.
You got it.
Hello, sir. My name is Katrina Fee, and I go to the Catholic University of America.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Uh-huh.
As a conservative, I believe that one of the most foundational principles of what we believe, and surely what William F. Buckley subscribed to, is a strong national defense.
Yes.
And I see a lot of conservatives today saying, we should cut military spending, we should just mind our own business, get out of other people's business, not have the strong military power that I believe that we should. What would you say to those conservatives?
I would say this very simply. If you bury your head in the sand, you expose a certain part of your anatomy. Okay? Now, in the world, most people are very Machiavellian. And they're looking for that ability to rise up and become the strong man. I wish that we had a world that everyone was, peace, love, and kumbaya, but that's not the case. And many people, strength and might are the only two things that they understand and the only two things that they respect. And if you don't have a strong deterrent force, then you're going to see darkness, you're going to see evil. And one of my big concerns, I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan. I am really concerned about that we will see a bloodbath like we saw with ISIS. We will see an even greater bloodbath than what we saw with Pol Pot in the killing fields of Cambodia when we abandoned people in Vietnam. I have interpreters and translators that have emailed me and asking for letters of recommendation so they can get out of Afghanistan, because I know what's going to happen to them. And all we have to do, we're not about occupying, but all we have to do is show a strong deterrent and a strong willingness to stand with people that want liberty and freedom. People ask me, what is the most memorable moment of your military career? And I will tell you, young lady, it's watching little girls go to school in Afghanistan. And I just shiver to believe what's going to happen to those little girls coming up here pretty soon. So we need to have a strong national defense. Remember what it says in the preamble of the Constitution? We're supposed to provide for the common defense. That's an active verb. We're supposed to promote the general welfare. That's a passive verb. We're spending too much money on creating a welfare nanny state instead of protecting and defending and securing the United States of America and our allies and our interests.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
My name is Juliana Marsh, and I attend the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And our community is consistently working to diminish and get rid of the legacy of Thomas Jefferson.
I was just going to say that.
Yes, the founding father of our country and school, because of white supremacy and because he owned slaves. What would you recommend we do to keep his legacy intact on campus?
I recommend to keep his legacy intact on your campus. Here's the man that wrote the Declaration of Independence. Here's the man who's the third president of the United States of America. Here's the man that founded the University of Virginia. And when you go back and you read the Declaration of Independence, understand this. How many people here know John Locke, Second Treatise of Government, 1689? Because y'all are really smart kids. All right? John Locke talked about natural rights theory. Natural rights theory was based upon what? Life, liberty, and property. Life, liberty, and property, okay? Now, Thomas Jefferson, in doing the Declaration of Independence, quoted the laws of nature and nature's God, natural rights theory. But Thomas Jefferson, in writing the Declaration of Independence, did not put down life, liberty, and property. He put down life, liberty, and the... Why did Thomas Jefferson, in concert with Benjamin Franklin, not put down property? Because they never wanted people to believe that they had the inalienable right to own another person in the United States of America. That's how brilliant Thomas Jefferson was. Did he own slaves? Everybody at that time owned slaves. But did he understand that he wrote down that all men are created equal and they're endowed with certain inalienable rights? And if he had not written those words, then Abraham Lincoln would not have been able to say, this is what we're fighting to defend and advance in the United States of America. So that's what I want you to tell those chuckleheads there at the University of Virginia that want to destroy the legacy of the founder of the University of Virginia.
Thank you.
All right.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for coming. It's truly an honor.
I think I had to come, or else Jolie was going to hunt me down.
So my question today is, I have a ton of friends who share similar, core founding American principles as I do. But just because of the color of their skin, they identify with the Democratic Party and vote along the party line. What do you think the best way to approach these kinds of people is?
The best way to approach those kind of people is show them the documentary Uncle Tom.
Okay. Thank you.
Because the Democrat Party, you want to talk about systemic racism in the United States of America? Look at the history of the Democrat Party. I find it absolutely disgusting that when you want to stand up and say that we need to have a picture ID to be able to vote in America, they come up and start talking about some Jim Crow. Well, they're the knuckleheads that started Jim Crow. They're the ones that started poll tests, literacy taxes, and all poll taxes, literacy tests. They're the ones that did all of that. But the thing is that, going back to what I said, if you allow them to change history, to revise, to eliminate history, then you won't know the history of the Democrat Party. They didn't support the 13th, 14th, or 15th Amendments. They're the party that established the Ku Klux Klan. Their policies created the soft bigotry of low expectations. So I will tell you, one of your homework assignments before you go back on a college campus, first and foremost, you got to visit a national cemetery. And the other thing, you've got to see the documentary, Uncle Tom. Okay?
Thank you so much.
I'd like to first thank you for your service, sir.
That's what we do.
Second of all, Betsy German from University of Tennessee, go Vols.
Go Big Orange!
We'd be honored to have you anytime. You're welcome.
I'll be back there in November for
sir,
our ROTC reunion.
Wonderful, thank you. So my question to you is, as a member of a military family my entire life, I have a strong respect and reverence for all that served for our country and sacrificed their lives. However, I feel like many Americans are missing that, and they sometimes even feel disdain for those who serve in our armed forces. What would be your recommendation for changing the culture around that and just giving others my passion and my respect for those?
Well, I will tell you, a lot of people, ask me, do I believe in having a military draft and compulsory service in our military? I don't, because I want to make sure that we have the best who want to raise their right hand to serve the United States of America. But I do believe that young people need to have some type of service to this country, being a National Forestry Service or whatever, to learn that there are things that are more important than your iPad, your iPhone, and your everything else. But without a doubt, this is what I would do. I would get young people. I'd take them over to a military base, and I'd have them stay out in the field and see what these young men and women are doing. I'd love to load up a plane of some of these little Antifa and Black Lives Matter and take them to Iraq, take them to Afghanistan, and see if they could survive one night without screaming and crying for mama. Because I think that what we have done is we have shielded our generations from understanding what it means to be out there and stand on freedom's ramparts. So that's one of the critical things that we have to do, is we've got to show them what it means to serve this great nation. Remember, 3 to 4% of this country serve in the military. Less than 1%, I think it may be even less than 0.5%, have served a career in the United States military. 50 years ago, a little over 70% of our members in the House and the Senate have served in the military. Today, that number is about 16, maybe 17%. When you have people that know what it means to be willing to make the last full measure of devotion, to lay down their lives for this great nation, then you have a different nation. And so we've got to once again talk about what service, sacrifice, and commitment really mean. But again, let me close on this. When I look at your faces, I am so encouraged. And that's how I will continue to go out every single day and fight for your future. Because I will not ever be one that leaves you less than what my dad, what my mom sacrificed and left for me. So God bless you all. Thank you.